We've spoken before about how important industrial zones are at beating deity AI. That production just capacity to accelerate your empire through the later stages of the game is really important, especially when combining with coal power plants. If you didn't see my last video going through industrial zone placement and how to maximize the outputs, I'd recommend going to have a look. But generally speaking, the coal power plants involved with industrial zones essentially quadruple any output that an industrial zone will give you on the adjacency of the tile itself. So if you've got a +5 industrial zone, you will get +10 once you put the policy card down that doubles it, and then +20 in total once the coal power plant is built. Quadrupling is a really, really good method to kind of get in your head. What we spoke about last time, however, was very, very in relation to what I call the industrial zone triangle. And that sort of looked a little bit like this. If we were to put two cities 4 tiles away from each other and exploit a river by building some aqueducts into the middle, we can create this industrial zone diamond where each industrial zone has a lovely +5 capacity. That works great, but it's not the only way you can deal with industrial zones, because there are a few problems with this strategy. Firstly, it doesn't work with all maps. If you've got a map with a lot of antiquity sites on it, you discover them and you can't really do anything with them. You've got a map with lots of strategic resources, lots of luxury resources, properly placed rivers or mountains. It may not be possible, okay? It's a very specific arrangement. The other issue involves putting cities within 4 tiles of each other. That's great if you're aiming to have a playthrough that involves a lot of cities. Again, having lots and lots of cities is no bad thing. It works really well when it comes to focusing on getting a particular type of great person. So for instance, if you've got 20 cities and they've all got campuses, you're going to generate a lot of scientist points. But it doesn't work very well if you were aiming to build tall. If you want your huge super cities that have 15 to 20 population and a bunch of districts, shoving them in like this is going to really limit your space. If you imagine actually if this was our capital next to this mountain and we'd settled over on the coast in order to make this work, this city over here has got very, very little space in which to grow and spread, especially if strategics were to pop up, or antiquity sites, or other district blocking tiles. It happens. So, how do we look at this situation if we want to keep our cities tall? It all goes back to reminding ourselves exactly what gives us the major adjacencies with industrial zones. It's not just aqueducts, although those are the tiles that we frequently put down because they're the easiest to place. No, canals and dams are essential to making fantastic industrial sites, but often, especially with people who are very used to playing deity level, canals and dams are often ignored or forgotten about. Now, why is that? Well, firstly, they're harder to get to. Buttress is a much more difficult tech if you're not going for a very naval-based game. It's up at the top, it's after shipbuilding, and with the Hagia Sophia, which is a pretty good wonder as its only sort of requirement, and cartography way off into the distance over here, a lot of people don't beeline dams. Canals are all the way over towards steam power. Generally speaking, most people I watch play Civ by the industrial era have forgotten all about district placement and optimization, and they're just at that point putting things down wherever they can. Honestly, think about it. How much time and effort do you put into the beginning game, first turn, where you plan out all your cities, compared to turn 200 when you're still planning out cities? People have stopped settling, people have stopped planning. No. The late stages of the game is exactly when you have the production capacity to get this stuff done. You're also forgetting about these critters, military engineers, frequently used on my channel to build railroads, one of the best tiles in the game. But they've got build charges, and those build charges can be used to do 20% of the production cost of any of these buildings sort of towards you use it to upgrade all of these things, but they can also stand on any. Here we go. Build charges can be used to complete 20% of the canal, dam, aqueduct district, or a flood barrier building. 20% is amazing. Think about it, my capital's over here, it's got a bunch of production because I put industrial zones down fantastically, it's got 100 production, it's got an encampment, it's pumping out military engineers. Those military engineers can then be used to sail to my new cities, maybe there's one over here, maybe there's one over here, and they can be used to accelerate through those green districts, anything green in aqueducts, dams, and canals. So you can actually rush these things through. It's overlooked so often. Military engineers are fantastic for that reason. Now, canals and dams are harder to use because they're much more map specific. For instance, dams can only be built on floodplains. Floodplains do not happen often. If you see desert, often there's a lot of floodplain in and around desert, so over here maybe some opportunity for us to do this, but you can see I've actually started with 4 floodplain tiles here. The only real things you've got to consider with dams is you can only put one of them per river. It's not a per city thing, it's a per river, and you must have at least 2 sides of the dam touching that same river, and it must be built on the floodplains tile. It gives you a lot of housing and amenities, very much like an aqueduct. So if you've never put these things down and you want to build tall, this is a really good way of doing it. Canals effectively connect 2 bodies of water, or a city to a body of water. You need 1 piece of land between you and the water, and you can't make any of these 3-way canal junctions. Trial and error will teach you much about what you need here. Once you start looking at the map like this, you can't unsee it. And the advantage to using canals and using dams, along with the aqueduct district, is you can create some fantastic industrial zone placements without having to crowd your cities over. Don't forget, if you want to build tall, the optimum placement for your cities is 7 tiles away. 6 to 7 tiles at any rate, but 7 tiles means, obviously, if I were to settle in place with this settler here, I could work 1, 2, 3 tiles in all directions. I could have the maximum yields coming into this one city, and then I could go 1, 2, 3, 4 and have another city working the exact opposite. Trust me, building tall in Civ 6 is still a really good option, but you need the space to do it. So, does anyone see the placement here? There is a fantastic placement we can do just to keep 1 city around here. I'm not going to do a placement with 2 cities connected to each other, although it's possible, because the aim of this is to be able to build tall, to have a lot of space. Do you see it? It looks a little bit like that. So, the city centre is actually not going to be placed by fresh water. Controversial, I know, but we're going to dam, also aqueduct, over to the fresh water. We then have a canal that connects us to this body of water over here. You can see the coastal tile. And there's a dam because it's got 1, 2, 3 sides connected to this river and is a floodplain tile. It means that 1 industrial zone is going to be surrounded by +2, +4, +6 for major adjacencies, as well as +7, +8 for the districts next to it, the minor adjacencies there. +8 industrial zone, that gives me, with all the policy cards in place, +32 production to the city, as well as another +3 and +6 when powered from the workshop and factory. That's all the way up to +41. In one city, without having to connect it to another, this is how you build industrial zones. So what we're going to do is we're going to explore around the map, and we're going to just show you some options that you could consider when doing this. So you can see up here is a fantastic example where we can get 2 in place without necessarily using aqueducts at all. Like, aqueducts are always assumed to be what you need to do this, but there is some floodplain, here is some coast. By settling kind of up here on this tile there, I can put a canal down to this tile, which is a nice flatland tile to do it. I can build a dam here, put the industrial zone on this tile, and give myself a lovely little adjacency where, again, an aqueduct is not needed. It's not perfect, it doesn't get all 3 in like I've got down on my capital, but considering everything here, that's not bad. Imagine if these mountains weren't here and aqueducts weren't possible, like this was a little saltwater little city. It would help. Equally, I can aqueduct down here and then put a canal up in that direction and then put the industrial zone on the coast. The advantage to that setup, of course, although actually saying that, this aqueduct could be easily replaced with another canal, so we'll put canal in just for now. But that industrial zone obviously is a +5, but we've got 3 tiles here of which we could build wonders such as the Venetian Arsenal, which needs an industrial zone next to the coast. In fact, what I can do is expand it like this. I can build myself an aqueduct down between these 2 mountains. I can put myself a dam on that tile, and then I can look to settle over in this direction. I appreciate we're ignoring the 7 tile strategy here, but by putting a city on this tile and aqueducting over, I can then connect with the canals and the aqueducts of this city that aren't being used by the industrial zone to put another industrial zone here that gives me the beautiful 2, 4, 6, 7 adjacency. So that's a pretty good one. Do you see? You can have as many canals in a city as you want, as long as they're not connecting up with each other. Don't forget that just like any other district, industrial zones, they like to be surrounded. So I can see I've got 2 spare slots here, so I can put myself a commercial hub down to get the nice +3. And I think I'm going to stick down, whilst a theatre square would be quite fun, I'm going to put an encampment on the coast, just to stop anybody from navally raiding me. Again, this is a lovely +8 industrial zone given to us, again with the 4 city switch. Not the best, admittedly, not what I was really looking for, but with the bath or the aqueduct over to this tile and the canal, and then another canal to this city, this industrial zone is very powerful. But also, I've created a lovely situation where I can get from the sea into the lake, but also through into the lake and then through into this city. So I've actually taken a landlocked city and connected it to this ocean. Very handy. This one's really simple. It's literally a single district, but I'm using the fact that not only can I connect up these two oceans, imagine this was a spit of land that went up a lot higher on like a much bigger archipelago map or something like that, but I'm also combining the two horses to give myself a +1, +2, +3, +4, +5, and I'm only using one district in an area with no fresh water. That's pretty cool, isn't it? Anything +5 and above is pretty good. You don't need to worry about getting too high after that point. Like obviously it does make a difference, but it's not an essential difference. And again, lovely canal here, stick the bath down, and then we'll stick the industrial zone down as well. Always see if you can actually clear rainforest, jungle, woods, marshes, whatever it may be before you put the district down, otherwise it's wasted production. And again, another one has been popped down here. This one is much more simple. Down goes the canal, and then goes the industrial zone. And look at that, it's actually very useful. This was a totally separated piece of land. The ice was in the way, impassable. So actually now my boats could travel through. Canals are really, really handy if you really just sort of get used to them. This is a fantastic example of a hilarious city that you could do. If I settle right in the middle of this island on the aluminium, I can put 3 canals down on this city and make a lovely little triangle. It's all flat land, it's all connected to ocean. I mean, isn't that fun? So with this city placed as it is there, that's not a bath I'd like a canal please. Thank you very much. That gives me the +8 that I was looking for, but my tricks are not over yet, because don't forget I can build a canal here as well, just to really connect this lake up. Also then it's giving me a lovely, I think that'll be a nice +5 for me. It's always nice to see when you've got the full production of the industrial zone up and running, and then it goes +20 production. Yes, I will build that building. That is something I approve of. So there we are. Isn't it delightful? We can just put canals down, boom, 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 boom. I can actually put a canal on that tile. So I could put an industrial zone on this 3 canal separated tile if I could get the antiquity site down. It's almost worth it really, isn't it? Similar job with this new lovely desert city. Unfortunately this lake is surrounded by, and there are canals that are problematic in terms of getting this one in, but I can still go canal to there. I can put another canal here, I can put a bath on this tile. There are lots of different places I can stick a very nice industrial zone in this city that are all desert as well. The best bit about canals though is looking at huge continents and thinking, could I slice that up? In this case I absolutely could. If I were to settle on that hill, I would be able to put a canal on that tile, I'd be able to put a canal on this tile, which would link up this lake. Looking at this element, a little trickier because it's a little bit more than 3 tiles between, but say I were to settle there, I could canal to that tile, and then I would end up building the Panama Canal, which would effectively connect up. It's a little fiddly Panama Canal because it can sometimes be 2 tiles, sometimes it can be 3. It could in theory go bomb, bomb, bomb and do it that way as well, but in that case we could get a boat and sail through the entirety of this continent. Isn't that great? So there we go. Here's some examples of some canal-based production economies, like a lovely +9 in my capital because of the canal, the aqueduct, and the dam. I love that. This arrangement has to be my favourite. This city has a +5 without needing to be anything. It doesn't need fresh water. It literally just needs to settle 1 tile away from the coast, so we can go canal, canal. And there's an industrial zone complex. Brilliant. This is a perfect example of using the industrial triangle, but instead of the triangle, we're actually making 2 dams on sort of, well, there's an aqueduct and a dam to separate out all of this. That's a lovely +8. Again, an independent example, just using strategic resource. We need just a single dam to get a lovely +5. That's awesome. This again is the triangle, but again with the 3 sort of together. So you can see +8s are very possible rather than the +5 of just the regular industrial triangle. That's an industrial triangle just created by a single city using a canal to replace another city. The thing is, yes, I've settled close to each other, but if I were to get rid of this city and just have Arapneum and Rome, for instance, it doesn't need to be anywhere near it to get that +5. That's a self-sufficient +5. And then this is my favourite. Look at that. A little triangle of canals. A nice +6 because we settled on strategic. You know, it's easy enough to do. Use canals in your plans, and don't forget those military engineers. All you got to do is find a capital or another city with a ton of production, buy yourself, I mean, if we just quickly just like do this, we'll get the barracks going, we'll get the armory going. I mean, all you would have to do is scroll down to military engineer and just pump out a ton of them, and then just get them around the map to help your society grow these districts up. And don't forget, it all helps, because the more canals you put on your empire, the more your gold routes will be. It's very worth it. It's the little bit that people forget. Trade routes travelling through it can multiply the gold they get from districts at their destination. You're welcome. Combine up with railroads that do the same thing, and you're onto a winner. And finally, a very special shout out goes to Scott Stratton, Major King Kong, Matthew Wilkinson and Salty Tech for all of your support on Patreon, as well as everybody else who's joining the community and making this place a fantastic space to be. Thank you guys, you keep me going.